Hi YouTube, Darth here. This is Over Your Shoulder, a weekly series where I follow an unsuspecting player and give unsolicited advice and commentary. Today's victim is GGHick, a level 120 who I've seen mostly playing on hardcore. Speaking of hardcore, today's round is a match of Conquest on Pro Market while playing in a hardcore server. I will mention the difference in strategy between hardcore and normal throughout today's episode, so let's get to it. Alright, GGHick, let's see what we got here. Same setup as last round, M240B, HG33, a magnifier, an R2 suppressor, and a bipod. He likes to bipod a lot, I will tell you that from watching last round. Definitely one of the things that I noticed with the suppressor on hardcore is it silences your weapon, but its usefulness is not quite as much on normal. Like, you still get the sound suppression, but you don't have to worry about that minimap, so it's kinda up to your judgment whether you want to have a suppressor or not in hardcore, I think. So, making our way towards Alpha, this is not a bad move on this map. Try to get some of that backfield away from the Chinese team. Definitely one of the things I like doing on normal is running a tugs on this map, but that's not really going to be very useful, so on hardcore you're pretty much just going to have to listen, and it sounds like we've got some customers here. Turns out to be a friendly. It's really all about listening on hardcore. Listen for the sound of enemy callouts and for enemy weapons. And that's a skill that's useful on normal too. Looks like we are the squad leader and we're actually setting targets for our squad. Fantastic. Good job, Hick. I think here I'd probably take the wide out since my teammate is going up the center. Let's see what our tabletop situation is. It looks like the US team is pretty well in command of this map. Currently, Hick is heading towards Delta, which is not a bad cutoff because it's right next to the US team spawn, so you'll tend to draw in a lot more US players if you take this point from them. Although it seems like most of the action on this map tends to happen around Echo. I think from here what I would end up doing is taking Delta and working my way over to Charlie or Echo. And right here I'd probably try to cover myself a little bit more from the spawns that could be coming from behind. There you see the US spawn. So yeah, so we're next to the US spawn, so we're going to have to worry about the US team coming from those outside perimeters. That's probably where I'd be looking right now. Shutting that up is not a bad idea. That shuts off the easiest access to this point for the US team. And if they try to blow up the grade set, it'll at least give you a little bit of time to react to them coming in. And here an M-track outside, and that's our friendly M-track. It's kind of weird that the Chinese have an American vehicle on this map, but I'll roll with it. Good job of setting points on them. No enemy contacts so far to speak of. It looks like they're all either in the middle of the map or heading to Charlie, so we're going to get some action here, it looks like. One of the things about hardcore that I like to pay attention to is I like to try and stay in cover as much as possible because just a few bullets will be enough to kill you. There's really no response time if you're being shot at. Whereas in normal, if you're being shot at, you might have enough time to turn around and kill the person that's shooting at you. In hardcore, it's at least one bullet less kill every time. And you don't heal up from wounds, so either if you're not running a medic, then you're in trouble. Now we can hear action going on, but we can't exactly see where it's happening. Good job on spotting that enemy and taking him out, but at that time you also revealed yourself to the other guys. On hardcore, preservation is key. One of the big problems you'll run into is that if you take any damage or you have taken damage from a previous battle, you are even weaker for the next one. So trying to keep your health up as much as possible is great. And the best way to do that is to stay in cover or try to not reveal yourself to the enemy as much. So I find it's actually a little bit slower of a game mode. So when I'm capturing Echo, even on normal, I like to peek those stairwells just to make sure that the way is clear before coming out and into the open like this. You never know when there's somebody on the roof and they're going to chase behind you. So before taking Echo on Pearl, one of my general strategies is I try to clear out the stairwells and then I worry about the areas outside of them. The roof line above where he's looking right now is a spawn point you have to be careful of as well. Not sure why we're covering this angle. Most of the action's going to be coming from the center, and you know that there's at least two here because it's getting pushed back. So I'd probably be paying attention, trying to figure out where those other two are. See one right there. Good job taking him out first. He's using the M240 Bravo, which is actually not a bad choice at all on hardcore. I find that weapons that have a very low time to kill tend to do best on hardcore because it's usually about who happens to put bullets on their target first. There are a lot of times where you'll find you're just coming around a corner and there happens to be an enemy pointed at you, and just like that, you get dropped. Great job of assigning targets to a squad, even though there's only one guy in it. I think I would probably find a squad with a few more bodies inside of it. And as I was saying about time to kill, it's so important to have a low TTK weapon on hardcore, especially in close quarters, because you deny the enemy the chance to even hip fire at you. Deliver your bullets first and they'll be dead before they even know they're being hit. Another thing with hardcore is you'll want to be careful whenever you peek a corner or come around into a new area because you never know where there's going to be enemies. And if they're staring at you, you're already dead. I probably would push that button just so I get a better perspective on what's out there, be able to cover things. There's a lot of hiding that happens in hardcore because, again, if you are the one who catches your enemy, you are probably going to win. And the flag stopped moving, so now we know that there's somebody here. Almost certainly on the other side. Almost definitely now. And the flag started moving again, so there's two, but his teammate spawned on him, so great, now we have it even again. So now we know there's two because he had a friendly spawn on him. It's still holding steady. And it's really not a bad idea to just sit and wait out your enemy in this kind of situation simply because of that advantage that hitting your enemy first gives you. Aggression is not rewarded at all on hardcore. In fact, it's punished. So if you can wait out your enemy, do so. Because, again, if you're exposed and they start firing at you and get those first few bullets in, you're most likely going to lose this match. Not a bad use of smoke to get into a better position. Seems like it's quite a valuable move there. Good job on him. I think if I were running smoke, I would probably be running the Iron Video FLIR setup so I could get maximum usage out of it. I think the setup I would do here entirely is laser, FLIR, smoke, and then you would have a nice setup where you have the smoke and the FLIR to blind your enemy and be able to get in on a point. That might provide you some actual ability to be aggressive on hardcore. And then you would have the laser for when you were finding enemies at close range so that you could hip fire them with the M240 Bravo. And if you're wondering why we're not seeing whole tons of enemies everywhere, there are only about 24 players on this server. 64 player hardcore Pearl Market might just be the worst thing ever. Again, doing a great job of assigning targets for his one guy in his squad. It does get you points too, so it's definitely worth doing. Let's take a look at the tabletop and see what's going on right now with this situation. Looks like the US team is still kind of on top of things, but it's coming back in the Chinese corner now. Game's pretty even. This is going to go on for a while yet, I can tell. Might as well get in this vehicle if you can. No reason not to. They're not going to take it out instantly, if you're not, unless you're not paying attention. One of the problems I have with the Amtrak on this, and even in normal, is that if you put yourself in an Amtrak and you put yourself in the middle of the city, you're almost certainly just going to eat C4 because it could come from anywhere. And we see in the kill feed there that the enemy got taken out by the Amtrak, so we can move on from here. So right now we're just constantly making our way to points. Great sense of play in the objective here. Definitely being a lot more aggressive than I saw him last round, so that's pretty great. I do not know where there are any enemies here, so I think I would probably be playing it safe. Try to approach this a little bit slower. And that's sort of the thing that messes with me on hardcore, is that just like that you could be taken out by an enemy that's following you around while you're running and gunning. One of the places that enemies are going to look for first is inside of here because everybody thinks they're safe in here. And there really aren't a lot of great ways to shoot out of there or see where enemies are coming from. So I actually think that's a terrible place to try and conquer the point from. Now we're still doing a good job of pushing all the points on here. We can see that there's an Amtrak over there. We have C4 to deal with that. I think I would be considering ways in which we can just creep up on it. Oh, and it looks like it's already being taken care of. Yep, and that is good game for that Amtrak. I probably would have just put 2 on it. I think that might have been enough, especially on hardcore. Everybody has 60 health, so make use of it. And the first thing he does when he comes in here is he shuts those shutters, which is really a good move, especially when you're right next to the enemy spawn point. And we can hear that there's an enemy around the corner, so we end up catching him while he's taking a nap. Again, this is a great example of using audio to find your enemies in hardcore, which is really probably about the best way you can know that they're there. Heard somebody get shot to your left, so you know they're probably going to be coming from that direction. Nope, that was a friendly. Never mind. Hardcore really amplifies the need to be situationally aware simply because you can die so quickly. Yeah, and again, you're next to their spawn, so you know they're going to be coming from that left side. I'd probably be working on trying to cover that side a bit more. Maybe I'd put myself in the corner that he's looking at right now. Good job of marking targets and going and pursuing them after he does so. It's so rare that you get a squad leader that does that. Bravo's a little bit further away than Charlie. I'd probably be focusing on Charlie right now. Yeah, the other thing you have to watch out for in hardcore is friendly fire, so don't stand in front of friendly vehicles or you're going to get run over. Game's pretty well even at this point. 627, 625, 623. It's going to even up here right now. And I want to say that China is starting to get the upper hand in this match. They've just had a lot more opportunity to be aggressive. While Hick is doing a good job of playing this outside lane, I'd probably be moving a little bit slower and waiting for enemies to show themselves. When a flag is in motion, you never know when the enemy is going to spawn on the periphery and make their way inward. I'd be playing it very safe here. I'd probably just get on the point and find a nice spot to hide down and wait for enemies to try and show themselves. It looks like right now Hick is trying to get around to flank somebody from behind, although his teammates have already taken care of the problem for him. There's another thing in hardcore. If you know where an enemy is, don't ever confront them face to face. That's true on normal too, but on hardcore that coin flip becomes much less in your favor since they usually have the initiative because they see you first. Speaking of which, oh, and just like that, you can die in hardcore because you lost the initiative. And we're back with GGHick. This match has been really close. Both teams have been doing a pretty good job of trading the points back and forth. I would say that the Chinese team is starting to get the upper hand a little bit. GGHick and China have both been doing a really good job of moving from point to point, capturing it and securing it and moving on. So one good thing that GGHick has been doing here is working those outside lanes and moving in. This will usually help you to catch defenders that might have spawned and have now moved inwards. Although you should definitely always exercise caution, and just like that, you get in trouble because you didn't check the one corner. Remember, if there are enemies nearby, assume they could be anywhere and always check those corners. So the game's pretty well in favor of the Chinese at this point. They're about 100 points up and they are moving a couple of points at the time. Looks like Echo is in motion, so I try to be hunting down whoever is at this point. Missed that jump. I seem to miss that jump every time, even though it seems oddly easy, but it's very hard. 2 bullets right there. That's all you need to kill somebody on hardcore. And really, it was probably that first shot that killed him because the 240B does 34 damage, multiply that by 2 for the headshot, and you're doing 68 damage, which is more than enough to kill anybody even with body armor. I hope that example illustrates why being careful and catching your enemy is very important on hardcore. And rather than lingering here out in the open, I would probably try to find cover because you could be shot from just about anywhere at Echo. The stairwells are dangers, the buildings around Echo are dangers, it's pretty much one of the most dangerous points on the map. Although Pearl Market itself is pretty much 360 degrees of danger. Oh, found 2 guys napping. And there's the problem. There's the problem with Pearl Market is that there's always somebody watching you if you're out in the open. It's like we're back and currently in control of the map. Definitely some shooting going on here. Probably should have started that with a peek and shoot. And it looks like we're still getting fire in that direction, so probably don't want to peek that twice. Taking these stairs and trying to get a flanking route around is definitely a great idea. Oop, getting surprised by an enemy there and almost dying. Good job taking this from a different angle. Never peek the same angle twice if an enemy knows where you are and they're expecting you. You're only going to get yourself killed. That's definitely true on normal as well, but if you're on hardcore, it becomes even more true because if you peek the same angle, the enemy's expecting you and you're just going to die that much more quickly. Still 100 up on the Chinese team. Probably going to come away with the win at this point because they managed to capture 3 flags at most times. So we're back with Hick after a little bit of rooftop running. Now you've exposed yourself, so he knows that you're here, but he's not very observant. Yeah, always be listening for shots happening around you because chances are they're happening to you. Again, another situation where running the outside lane really helped out. Good job of being aggressive and cleaning up this area. Let's take a look at the map here. We're up by about 130 points on the Chinese. It also looks like the US team is finally getting in on that western side of the map, which is going to help them out in the long run if they can hold on to it. Those points on the eastern side of the map are a little bit more of a US gimme and a little bit easier to take and hold. So it's important that GGHick is making his way back here to recap them from the US. And we've been hearing some shots, so we know that there's somebody up here. And I think in this case he's forgotten that his smoke grenade is actually a smoke grenade and is not going to explode at all. That's actually a pretty common mistake that I make when I run smoke myself. And GGHick here has a pretty good intuition about trying to flank to get that enemy. However, he gets caught in one of these long lanes at Pearl Market and shot down. On Pearl Market, you really have to be careful in turning the corner on those long lanes. So GGHick is back, and it looks like we're trying to recap Echo from the enemy team. Echo is a point that sees a ton of action on 64 player, 32 player, and pretty much every version of Pearl Market. So I usually like to be pretty careful whenever I'm moving around this point because there could literally be enemies anywhere. And it sounds like we can hear one below right now. Again, it looks like we've mistaken the smoke grenade for a real grenade, and all we're doing is giving the enemy a coughing fit. And actually, if you have smoke, one of the better ways to use it is to throw it on enemies that you're trying to assault. It blinds them and forces them to move from any cover that they're in if they want to see the action around them. So after capturing Echo, Hick spends an enormous amount of time just camping up here on the rooftops. I'm generally not a fan of doing this on any map because while it gets you a lot of kills, it also gives the enemy a lot of time in order to take back all the points from the map. And I think that's actually one of the nice trade-offs about Battlefield 4. Let's look at the map really quickly and this will prove my point. Notice how the US team has come up with all these points while Hicks has been on the top of a roof. Pearl Market is one of those maps where you can have a lot of soldiers on the rooftop that don't really affect the outcome of the battle. You can see the same trade-off in Shanghai Domination where you have this great rooftop that'll get you a lot of kills but won't affect the battle. He's got a little bit of backup here, but we know that Amtrak is over there. We can see an enemy right there, doing a good job of flanking around, trying to come at it from a different angle. If you have squad mates or teammates holding it down in one direction, it often pays off just like that in order to go around. It looks like Wally's made an appearance here, so I think they have this point on lockdown. That's that guy right there. I probably wouldn't repeat that since my teammates have it. There's another thing. If an enemy has a beat on you, don't repeat the same corner again, like I was saying earlier. Because it's just going to end up with you getting in trouble. Especially on hardcore, because if they just had continued shooting, you just walked into all their bullets. So you assign Charlie to a squad. Good job again on assigning targets constantly. It's actually something that I'm pretty poor at, and I have to be reminded of from time to time. So I'm working on that. But Hicks seems to have that down pretty well, so great on him. Not a bad idea to follow the Wally into battle here. It can take a little bit more. It can take a little bit more heat than you can, and it can deal a lot of punishment, and enemies love to shoot at it, so they can easily expose themselves to where they are. And at this point the flag stops moving, so we know that there are enemies behind us. So, oh, I think he just got fratricide there, yep, RGO impact. There's the other pitfall of hardcore. If you have trigger-happy teammates, you are going to pay for their problems. There's not too terribly much there that Hicks could be expected to do. I think in retrospect it might have been safer to try and stay in the market in the corner and cap from there, but at the same time, Pearl Market is one of those places where you just don't know where the enemies are going to be coming from. Alright, looks like the Chinese team is still in really good position, up by about 140 tickets now. They pretty much had the run of this map. Delta's in contention again, but it's always going to be in contention because that's their spawn on this map. Again, you always want to be aware that it's their spawn and know that that's the direction they're going to be coming from. Probably taking it a little bit dangerously by working the outside lane. Ha! Not exactly an armored vehicle there. Which brings up a good point about vehicles on this map. If you have one of the faster vehicles, you probably want to go and cap those back points away from the enemy. Whereas I find with the Amtrak, it's not so good inside the city, but it's not bad for interdiction. Yeah, there's the danger of running and gunning on hardcore, is that you're going to run into enemies most of the time. Got to res from teammates, but straight into blindness, and oh, he managed to live. Nope, not for long. I think he was just as surprised as I was. Ooh, that's bad. Yeah, taking fall damage on hardcore is a big issue, and always was for me on Battlefield 3, where I played a lot more hardcore. But yep, he's begging this guy for health, and it's not happening. Isn't this kind of funny? A support asking for health, but throwing ammo. And you can't really shoot the guy to ask him for health, because what will happen is, yeah, he'll die. Yeah, he's begging for health, and he finally gets it. There we go. So I will not lie. I have killed people before to take their kits from them and give myself health, and then res them. They have to be good humored about that for that to work, though. Doing a lot of running around and meandering right now as GGHick. I want to say, oh, this could be trouble. Good. Pulled that shoot just in time. Good parachuting skills are oh so important in hardcore. Yeah, I'd probably just sit down here at Delta and see if I can just attract most of the enemy team to me. Just take the point and jump into one of those buses nearby and shoot down anybody that comes from their spawn trying to look for this point. Another thing about hardcore is if you are killing somebody from a fixed location, be sure that you don't stay there for too long, because eventually they will track you down. Like, there isn't a kill cam, but there are enough smart players that they can figure it out. Another situation where it might have been better to simply just wait up in a corner for your enemies to come in. But he gets a res, so we're going to jump back on him here. Looks like we're missing some health. Didn't throw out a full res, which is kind of naughty. So if you are an assault on hardcore, make sure you throw out those full reses because it's going to matter a lot more to teammates. They don't regen health automatically, so you want to give them that little extra advantage, and they might not stick around for your health kit either. As a general rule, when I'm playing assault, I like to throw out 100 reses if I have time. So if there are no enemies around, I throw out 100 res. If my buddy is in the line of sight of an enemy, I make sure that he has 100 res before I try to revive him. That way he'll at least have a fighting chance. And at the very least, I always like to throw out a health kit in any situation. Now there's the other thing you gotta be careful of, is shooting through teammates, because they will take damage. So Hicks is doing a good job here of covering the US spawn point's possible routes into this flag. Whenever you're a Delta as the Chinese team on this map, know that the United States could come through any one of these side doors. And you should always be careful just like that whenever you're running past them. Looks like we're back for a kamikaze. Huh. Yep, this guy's not paying attention. Oh, wow. He could have been killed twice over there. And 1 and 2 and... oh. No help from the teammate there. Everybody wants to get this kill in. Wow. Yeah, so... not his fault there. I think his teammates sort of sold him up the river and said, hey, I really want to get the C4 kill. I'm not going to worry about shooting any enemies that are going to shoot you while you're trying to plant C4. A little bit greedy on their part. The Chinese team still well in command of this map. Even though the US team had a little bit of a comeback there, it's still about about a 200 point difference. GGHick has definitely been doing a lot of great legwork and capturing the objectives himself. Definitely a lot more effort on the Chinese side. Like I said earlier, the Chinese team is doing a much better job of recapping points after the American team has been taking them. Let's see what our map situation looks like. It looks like, yeah, they're mostly in control of points that are just closer to their spawn, so they've had a really hard time getting back into the other areas. I think if I were on the other team, what I would be doing is trying to set up a beacon here on Echo or one of the other points, just so you don't have to run across the entire map to try and recap some of these other points. Pearl Market has a lot of great nooks and crannies as a recon you can be simply annoying with. And this is a really nice spot to just hide out and wait for somebody to come up. Probably just hang out here for the duration of the capture. See if any enemies come up. Doesn't look like anybody's here because we're still moving the flag, no problem. And I'm not really sure why we're looking away from the point, because most of your threats are going to come from inside of it. The one exception being the spawn points on the periphery. Doing a great job of assigning points still. Take that damage. Obviously there's not as much point in trying to mash Q in this because you're not going to be spotting as much, so haven't seen much or any of that really. On hardcore, your soldier will still make the hand motions and vocalize that they've spotted an enemy, but because there is no Dorito in the world or on the minimap, you'll not get much more than a general direction. And it's actually detrimental because while your soldier is animating that gesture, you can't fire, but your enemy can, and they can kill you. So here's an interesting idea. Riot Shield on hardcore might not be a bad idea because it can obviously absorb a lot more damage than you can. However, Riot Shield in the open, not usually a good idea. And now his faceplate's been shot out, so now he can get a headshot in on them pretty easy. But at this point, he's pretty much committed. There's only so much you can do with it, though. Like, once somebody has figured out, they're just going to shoot you in the head. Out in the open. Luckily, comes up with that. I think I'd probably stick to this cover and just wait out this game. It's going to be over in about 2 seconds. And that's it for this round of Hardcore Conquest Pearl Market. GGHick's team came out on top, much thanks to his ability to play the objective. GGHick might not have always outshot his enemies, but sticking to the objective wins games. So the advice I have for GGHick pretty much stems from the uniqueness of hardcore. It will definitely help him to stick to cover and be a bit more careful when moving around objectives. There were a lot of times when he got shot down by a straggling enemy or because he was playing aggressively. I'm a big fan of playing aggressively, but hardcore requires a bit more care when entering and leaving points. Otherwise, it was a pretty solid round played by Hick. That's it for this episode of Over Your Shoulder. If you'd like the chance to be featured on a future episode, be sure to message me your battle log information and I'll try to follow you sometime. If you like this episode of Over Your Shoulder, be sure to click that like button. If you're new around here, please check out my channel and consider subscribing. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time, YouTube.